All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to unpack a pretty wild story about a founder navigating the high-stakes world of luxury eyewear. It's a world where business, personal belief, and the whole idea of what's real and what's fake just completely collide.
Yep. Let's just kick things off with this quote, because it really cuts right to the chase. It pulls back the curtain on a hidden practice in the luxury market. You know, a gray area where things are definitely not always what they seem.
All right, so welcome to the game. That's what the founder at the heart of this story calls it. We're talking about a very specific but really influential corner of the fashion world that revolves around these high-end custom glasses.
Okay, so to really get what's going on here, you've got to know the lingo. And the key term is buffs. Now, these are not just any sunglasses. They're a huge status symbol, especially in the streetwear scene in cities like Detroit. And this right here, this is the central battle happening in this whole world. It's a showdown between being straight up with your customers versus, as our guy puts it, telling fabricated lies just to make a buck. So that conflict, it really throws the doors open on the main problem here. This super murky world of authentic versus replica glasses, and this gray market that's just booming in the space between them.
So you might be asking, how do they even pull this off? Well, it's all about creating what's called a hybrid fake. See, they'll take one real part, like the wooden or horn temples from a legit pair of Cartiers, and then they'll slap them on to replica frames they bought cheap from a factory. Then, the real genius move? They list the final product as used, which is a perfect excuse for any little imperfections. It's pretty sneaky.
And this is where the real disconnect happens. You see, the seller can say, hey, these are authentic used glasses, and they're not totally lying because one piece is, in fact, authentic. But the reality is you're buying a pair of glasses that are mostly fake, factory-made parts. It's a really clever way to bend the truth.
So here's a huge tip-off for anyone looking to buy. It really comes down to the price tag. If you see a pair of buffs listed for somewhere in that $200 to $400 range, well, let's just say that's a massive red flag. You're almost certainly not getting the real deal.
So you've got this whole landscape of fakes and deception, right? And smack in the middle of it, our founder decides to do something completely different, a total pivot. He decides to build his own brand from the ground up, based on the one thing he felt was missing: transparency.
But, you know, it's important to say he didn't start out this way. He's actually really upfront about the fact that he used to be in the replica game too. He only changed his ways when people in his own city started calling out the fake sellers and, as he says, policing the market.
So he basically tore down the old way of doing things and built a whole new business model from scratch. He went straight to the factory himself, he ditched the Cartier name, put his own logo on the glasses, and spent the next 8 years building a brand where being honest with people wasn't just a gimmick, it was everything.
And this quote, man, this says it all, doesn't it? I don't care if I lose customers telling the truth. That shows you just how deep his commitment goes. For him, the truth is worth more than a sale. Period.
But here's the thing. It's one thing to run your own business with a strong set of principles. It's another thing entirely when those principles slam right into the massive, often confusing wall of big tech platform policies. And that brings us to the next kind of crazy chapter of his story. A fight over what he calls censorship. This is where his battle in the marketplace suddenly spills over into the public square of social media.
So his claim is that he's been directly targeted. He uses the phrase completely incinerated to describe what Facebook has done to his business pages. And not just once, but over and over again, with absolutely no warning. So the big question is why? Why does he think this is happening? Well, according to him, the official reason he was given was for selling animal products, because of the horn temples on some glasses. But he doesn't buy that. He believes that's just an excuse and that the real reasons he's being targeted are because he's a minority business owner with conservative political views.
You know, to really understand how he deals with all this, all these business and political hits without breaking, you have to look deeper at what's fueling him personally. You got to look at his faith and his core convictions.
So even with his business channels getting hammered, he seems to have this incredible sense of security.
And he comes from two places. One is that he was smart. He got into crypto way back in 2017. But the other, much deeper source of strength comes from his faith.
And wow, this timeline, it really just lays out the whole incredible journey, doesn't it? At 19, he's sent to prison for some very serious charges. While inside, he finds his faith, he gets out at 22, starts a business from absolutely nothing, and then secures his future with a smart investment. I mean, that's a serious transformation.
And this right here, this quote, is pretty much the anchor for everything he does. He says he's not sweating where the money is going to come from because he truly believes that a higher power has his back. That's the bedrock of his resilience.
So we started this whole explainer talking about counterfeit glasses, but it ends with a much, much bigger question, right? In a world that's just full of replicas, online personas, and hybrid fakes, what does it even mean to be authentic anymore? Not just in business, but in your own life. It's definitely something to think about.